While making a chocolate cake, the woman suddenly noticed the chocolate's color was identical to the dog poop she'd just stepped in on her shoe. Without hesitation, she scraped the mess from her sole into the mixing bowl, then baked a chocolate cake and promptly delivered it to her neighbor's door.
We'll cut your way.
The new neighbor, seeing the freshly baked chocolate cake, couldn't refuse such a gesture and accepted the woman's kindness without a second thought. After taking a bite, he even complimented her on how delicious the cake tasted. Little did he know, the woman's revenge was entirely his own doing. On his very first night after moving in, this neighbor threw a wild party. Lisa didn't mind at first, but to her dismay, the music was still blasting at 3 in the morning. This instantly got on her nerves. Since it was his first day, though, she decided to let it slide. Lisa suffered through a miserable night, then dragged her exhausted body to work. But as she stepped out her front door, she nearly planted her foot right in a pile of dog crap. The neighbor's dog had done its business on her lawn, which instantly disgusted her. Running late for work, she didn't have time to confront the neighbor about it. When she finally got home after a long day, showered, and was ready to rest, that familiar metallic noise started up again. She'd had enough and immediately marched over to bang on the neighbor's door. To her surprise, the neighbor seemed apologetic and quickly asked his friends to turn down the music. Seeing he was somewhat reasonable, Lisa also mentioned the morning's poop incident. When he promised it wouldn't happen again, Lisa left satisfied. Back home, though the music continued, it was quieter and didn't interfere with sleep. Lisa thought she'd finally get a good night's rest, but at midnight, ear-splitting noise jolted her awake again, right at 3 in the morning, like clockwork. This infuriated Lisa. Wide awake now, she stormed back to the neighbor's place. But the neighbor, in the middle of his party high, wasn't having any of her complaints. Seeing his complete change from his daytime demeanor, Lisa threatened to call the cops if he kept making noise, explaining she had work tomorrow and needed sleep. When he heard her threat to call the police, the neighbor suddenly became aggressive. Left with no choice, Lisa dialed 911, reporting the neighbor for disturbing the peace in the early morning hours. But the police said noise complaints weren't their jurisdiction. She'd need to gather other neighbors and file a complaint with city management. Furious, Lisa grabbed her pillow, got in her car and drove to a quiet lakeside spot, trying to catch some sleep in her vehicle. Just as she was finally sleeping soundly, a city officer woke her up. Parking wasn't allowed by the lake. Luckily, the officer was an old classmate of Lisa's. She hoped he'd cut her some slack, but since she'd rejected his advances years ago, he coldly wrote her a ticket anyway. When Lisa got home from work that evening, the neighbor, seeing she hadn't managed to bring the cops, became even more brazen, starting his party right after dark. Lisa couldn't take it anymore and rushed to the other neighbors, hoping to file a joint complaint against the guy. But knowing he had tattoos and was trouble, they all followed the don't rock the boat principle and refused to help. With no neighbors willing to back her up, Lisa had to endure the annoying noise. After several nights without proper sleep, Lisa knew she couldn't keep this up. She remembered the old classmate who'd given her the ticket and arranged to meet him. Since this classmate had once pursued her, he showed up at a bar to meet Lisa as planned. Lisa got straight to the point about her predicament. At the classmate's place, he eagerly headed to shower. But when he came out of the bathroom, he found Lisa already fast asleep in his bed. When Lisa woke up, it was already the next day. Seeing the classmate's leopard print briefs, she quietly slipped out of bed and snuck out of his place. When she got home, the